Hey everybody, my name is Dylan, and I'm joined here with Richard on the stage. And Richard and I are engineers on the Google Play console, and we're here to take you through some quick tips that will help you develop better apps for better user retention and just overall how to be awesome. So here's our agenda today, and we have a big focus, first of all, on app performance and technical quality. We're going to focus on app performance and tech quality because this will help you achieve throughout the app lifecycle a consistently good user experience. Our first topic is going to be discussing how you can evaluate performance pre-launch and going live after that with the app, and finally understanding and improving performance and quality post-launch. Then we're going to discuss Android rewards for quality and how that will influence your app over time. Now I'm going to pass over to Richard, who's going to take you through some details about why performance matters.
Thank you, Dylan. Annyeonghaseyo. Thank you. So why do we think performance matters? And what do we even mean by performance anyway? What are we talking about here? So Play is huge. There's over 1 million apps. It feels like there's an app for everything. But there isn't a high-performing app for everything. And we think that apps that do not perform well, apps that crash, apps that run slowly, apps that drain battery, these apps tend to lose users to the good apps that don't do those things. So we think that app performance is absolutely crucial to user retention. We like to bring data because we're Google. So we did some machine learning analysis of reviews to try and support this idea. And what we found was that 50% of one-star reviews mention app stability being bad or mention bugs. And 60% of 5-star reviews praise the app's speed or design or usability. So we think performance is pretty important. We mentioned this to some friend developers of ours at Busuu. Busuu have a language learning app with 65 million users. And they told us that when they put a focus on app performance, when they improved the performance of their app, their weekly average rating went from 4.1 stars to 4.5 stars, which is the highest rating they've ever had. So we think it's important. So what can I, on the Google Play team, do for you before you even launch your app? So I'm going to take you through the first of our 10 secrets. And that is the pre-launch report, which I'm particularly excited about because it's what I work on every day. The pre-launch report is part of the Google Play Console's release management section. Once you opt in for pre-launch report testing, every alpha and beta APK that you upload to us will be taken and tested. And we will give you information about crashes, and we will show you screenshots on different devices, and we will flag up security problems for you. So what do I mean by tested? Pre-launch report is powered by the Firebase Test Lab. These are real, physical Android devices in Google data centers, lots of them. We do automated testing. It's a crawler process. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to write test scripts. You don't need to configure anything. The automated process generates taps and swipes with your app just like a user would. So let's talk about what we get out of this report. The first thing is crashes. Crashes are really bad. So if we find a crash through this testing process, we will communicate to you the stack trace, the logcat, the specs of the device on which we found the crash, even a video that shows the process, the testing process, discovering that crash, so that you can understand how to fix that crash. And because this APK is in alpha or beta, that means you've fixed it before any of your users have seen it. And that's good. We launched pre-launch report at I/O last year. And since then, we've seen really good momentum. We have 61% of the top 1,000 apps in Play who have opted in for testing. And we've tested over 1 million APKs. Like I said, a lot of devices. But the best stat, I think, is this one. 85% of the time, when pre-launch report detects a crash, that APK is never released. That is a crash that users never see. So we really think that we're helping the Android ecosystem. We're not done, of course. You're developers too. You understand that we're never finished. So at I/O this year, we announced some extra new features. And the first one of those I want to mention is that we added a number of new devices, including Pixels running Android O preview. So now, when you upload your APK to the pre-launch report, we will detect problems that will apply in the version of Android that will be released later this year, giving you plenty of time to fix those issues before users see them. So that's your first of our 10 secrets, Android O preview in the pre-launch report. But let me carry on. We announced more new features in the pre-launch report this year. Let's talk about login. If your app has a login screen, up until now, you wouldn't have been able to use the pre-launch report very well because the robot crawler would have been stuck on the login screen. With this new feature, you can give us a username and a password, and we will use them to sign into your app, and then we can explore it much more effectively and find more crashes for you. Another new feature, which I was very excited about, is screenshot clustering. As we do the tests on your app, we will gather potentially hundreds of screenshots of different parts of your app on different Android devices. With the new screenshot clustering feature, we will group these together according to which part of your app they are, so that you can see, for example, how does my landing page look on a tablet or a small phone or a large phone. Finally, we've also continued to increase the number of security vulnerabilities and other issues that the pre-launch report can flag up to you. We now have over 30 different vulnerabilities, from libraries with potential security holes to leaking identifiers by transmitting them in clear text. Now, we know that you would never do this on purpose, but the pre-launch report can give you some confidence that one of your third-party SDKs hasn't accidentally brought in some component that is vulnerable in this way. So if you haven't looked at pre-launch report, I urge you to please check it out, and I hope that it can give you the sense of confidence that some of our other developers are enjoying. So that's my second secret for you. Smarter pre-launch report with screenshot clustering and login. And now I'm going to hand it back to Dylan to talk about going live.
Thanks, Richard. So we've covered what to do before you launch, and now it's time for your app to go live and for you to decide how to distribute it. Android gives you amazing reach thanks to the diversity of Android devices across capabilities and across price points. However, we hear from you that navigating the device space and targeting the right devices can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. So to help with this, we've built a brand new device catalog in Play Console. We've moved from a long list of device codes to a rich, full-featured device catalog. And we've done this across thousands of devices that you can target. This reflects the Android motto, be together, not the same. And here's what it can do for you. First of all, you get a detailed device spec, including RAM, system on chip, GPU, screen size, and OS version. And you get this for every one of thousands of Android devices certified by Google. We also group these devices into models and allow you to drill down to see the variations between them. You can search by specs, such as finding all devices that have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM. And for every device or every search, we show your apps installs, ratings, and revenue across that slice. And finally, you can now set device exclusion rules. This allows you to exclude your app from devices based on key performance indicators. For example, if you're building a rich, full-featured game, you could use these rules to target devices with over 1 gigabyte of RAM. You could also set a rule to exclude all devices with a particular system on chip, which you might do, for example, if you discover a bug on that chip and you want to exclude it from your deployment until you fix the bug and roll out a release. Whenever you create an exclusion rule, we always show you what devices will be excluded, along with installs and revenue metrics. And we do this so that you can make the important decision with a lot of confidence as to how it impacts your app. That was secret number 3 for you, a brand new device catalog and targeting capabilities. Here's another thing we've done. We created a brand new release dashboard, which lets you monitor your app releases as they happen across crashes, ANRs, ratings, reviews, and install volumes. Probably many of you thought that the Play Console stats updating only once a day was too slow. Well, everything you see on this dashboard and the detailed views linked from it all update by the hour. And what's more, critical information like new reviews for crashes come in as they occur, or only a few minutes late at most, no matter how big your app is or how many users it has. And that's secret number 4 for you. a real-time release monitoring dashboard. Now I'm going to pass over to Richard again, who's going to talk to you about post-launch.
Thank you, Dylan. So as I mentioned earlier, a developer's work is never done. And you know that after you release your app, or the latest update to your app, there's more to do. So the first thing you have to do is you have to understand what users think of your app. And we think the best way to do that is to think about reviews. So if you have a lot of reviews, it can be very challenging to try and understand what users are actually saying. So last year, we announced Reviews Analysis, a feature where we process the text of reviews and we pull out common things that lots of users are mentioning. And we tell you whether those things are having a high or a low effect on your app. So if lots of users are mentioning stability and leaving one-star reviews, you know that maybe you've got a problem here. At launch last year, this only supported reviews in English, but we've started to build out the language capabilities of this using new machine learning models, and we've now increased it to Spanish and Japanese. We also encourage you to look at reply to review. Users really like it when they get replies to their reviews. It makes them feel like they've been taken care of, especially when it's a negative review. But we know that it can be very difficult to keep track of the context of a user's review when you have replied and then the user edits their original review. Now, in the Google Play console, we will show you the complete history of all of that user's previous edits of their review, so that you understand what kind of time that user has had with your app when you choose how to reply to them. If you want to be confident that replying to users' reviews is really making a difference for you, the new reply to review tracking will let you see the change in star ratings over time to reviews that you did reply to and reviews that you did not reply to. This lets you tune your review strategy so that you know what you should be replying and how you should be replying and engaging with your users. Finally, on reviews, we've heard from many developers that despite our terms of service, occasionally users would leave reviews that contain spam or were abusive. Now, in the Google Play console, with just 2 clicks, you can find any particular review and flag it to us so that we can check into it. If the review does not comply with our terms of services, we can then remove it. So that's the 5th secret, a suite of tools to help you manage and analyze your reviews. Now I want to talk to you about Android Vitals. So this was a really, really big launch for my team this year. And it's a really big effort for Google in general. We want to give you the data that you need to improve the performance of your apps so that your users can be happier. This is 0 configuration for you. You don't need to add any SDKs. You don't need to change your app. Your users don't really need to opt into anything or accept any terms of service changes. We gather all of these field telemetry metrics, all of this information from your users' devices when they use your app, and pass it back to you. But it turns out when we started this project that that's a lot of data, and we need to figure out how to present it to you in a way that's useful. So the way that we thought about this problem was what we are calling bad behaviors. A bad behavior is a pattern in this data that when we see it, we're pretty sure the app is doing something wrong, with a pretty clear, pretty strong degree of confidence. So these are things that if the app does them, we think it's having a negative effect on the user experience. We mentioned this work to our friends at Kabam, who have many hundreds of millions of installs across their apps. And they said that tuning performance on their Android apps increased their 7-day retention by more than 10%. So again, we see that increasing the performance of your app increases your ability to retain users. Now that is a very brief overview of Vitals, and I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the sections within Vitals. But if you want to know more, please stay at the end of this talk. The next session will go into these in more detail, and my colleagues Rafal and Dario will also tell you how to fix the problems if you find that you have them. Let's talk about stability. This is the first of the Vitals areas. We know that crashes is very bad for the user experience. In fact, we did some analysis, and we discovered that apps with a high crash rate are uninstalled 30% more often on the very first day that the user uses that app. Now, previously, when we reported crashes in the Google Play console, we didn't have very much data. This is because that the Android platform, when an app crashed, would display a dialog and would say to the user, would you like to report this crash? And many users did not. They would just hit no because they were trying to get on with their day or relaunch the app. So we changed this to an opt-in mechanism. Now, users just see one opt-in once when they set the device up as part of the setup wizard. And once they opt in, all of their crashes and ANRs are collected. This means that we've got 100 times more crashes shown in the Google Play console than we had before this change. And this change goes back to Jelly Bean, so it covers 98% of the devices that are out there. Now, I've talked a fair bit about crashes, but you're probably quite familiar with how to deal with crashes. But I just want to talk for a moment about ANRs, application not responding. So if you don't know, an ANR is what happens when an app freezes and the Android operating system says to the user, hey, this app has crashed, you should terminate it. Because of how ANRs work, because it's the Android OS terminating the app, crash reporting SDKs often couldn't receive this data. So we built this collection loop, using the new opt-in to surface this data back to you so that you can address these problems. The ANR section of the Android Vitals will present detailed statistical information about how many users are being affected by ANRs, broken down across various metrics like your app version or the Android version. And we have a debug drill down view, which will give you all the information that you need to actually solve this problem. When we showed this to the engineers at Twitter as part of our early access program, they told us that this was extremely useful because they had never seen these crashes before. They had no idea that they were happening, and they were able to fix several bugs that they hadn't previously known about. So that's the stability section of Android Vitals, the ANR rate and the crash rate. Next, I want to talk to you about rendering. Android users want their phone to run at a fluid 60 frames per second. They want that smooth behavior. That means that your app has only 16 milliseconds, a very short period of time, to render each new frame before the user sees it. If you miss it by even the tiniest amount, you have to wait for the next frame refresh, which is 32 milliseconds. And the user will see a little stutter. If that stutter becomes very prolonged, we say above 700 milliseconds, the user will start to think that the app is frozen. And of course, if it hits 5 seconds, you may even get an ANR. So those are our bad behaviors for rendering. Users who experience more than half of their frames above 16 milliseconds, in other words, who are not receiving a 60 frame per second experience, and users who experience render times greater than 700 milliseconds, users who are experiencing an app that feels like it is stuck. The Android Vitals section of the console will give you, again, statistical breakdown of how many users are experiencing things, and we'll go through this in more detail in the next session. So that's your 8th secret, the ability to understand the rendering performance of your app. Finally, I want to talk about battery, the 3rd section of our Android Vitals. We hear from users all the time that they really want their device to last a long time. They don't want it to be flat at 3 p.m. All apps must use some battery power to do their job, but a badly behaving app can use excessive battery power, and that's what we want to try and help you address. We talk about this in 2 ways. First of all, wake locks. Partial wake locks are what happens when the user thinks the phone is asleep, the screen is off, but the CPU or the network is still active, so it is draining power. The Android Vitals section of the console will tell you how many users are seeing excessive numbers of wake locks. And it will, again, break this information down by app version, device, and other sort of metrics to help you really drill down and get to the heart of the problem. Our second battery metric is wake-ups. Wake-ups are when you ask the Android operating system, hey, in a little bit, please bring the device out of standby so I can do some work. Frequent wake-ups from apps will prevent the device going into a deep sleep and can result in a lot of drain. As before, we have a section where we will tell you how many users are seeing that behavior and on what devices they are seeing it. So those are your battery metrics, stuck wake locks and excessive wake-ups. And that's the 9th secret that I have, detailed reports on how your app may be impacting users' battery. Just at the end, I just want to take a brief moment to talk about rewards. What can Play do for you if you adopt this advice and improve your app performance? Well, hopefully, I've convinced you that you will be improving your user experience, and that may be enough. And if you improve your user experience, you will improve your star rating, and that will help too. But we've also got more than that. Play wants to surface the best apps to users, and we think the best apps are the ones that are highest performing. So we think app health is a key signal for that, and we're going to use that in several ways. In promotability in search, we know that 48% of smartphone users browse for apps in app stores. So this is a very, very large channel for app discovery. And we want to use metrics like Android Vitals and new Android Vitals metrics in the future to help us help users pick the best app for their needs. So this data will form part of our decision when we decide which app should be shown where in search ranking. Finally, we also have our editorial sections of the Google Play Store, new and updated features collection, when we pick, and also promoted apps. Again, there is a quality bar for an app to be considered as part of these sections. And again, we want to use Android Vitals measures in order to make sure that only the best apps can be shown off here. So that's your 10th secret. Play incentives for high-performing apps. I want to take a moment to say thank you very much. If you have any questions for us, we will be at the Meet the Speaker zone immediately after this. We will also stay, so that if you want to attend my colleagues Rafal and Dario's talk, you can come and meet us after that. Finally, I'll be on the sandbox from 5 p.m.
Oh, very good.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.